जगत्प्रभुं देवदेवम् अनन्तं पुरुषोत्तमं सुवन्नाम सहस्रेण पुरुषः सततोत्थितः तमेव चार्चयन् नित्यं भक्त्या पुरुषमव्ययं ध्यायन् स्तुवन्नमस्यंश्च यजमानस्तमेव च.
As Bhishma extolled 1008 names of the omnipresent Lord, the Pandavas listened in rapt attention. Each of them was so consumed in listening to it that as Bhishma came to a gradual conclusion, Krishna, who was watching the entire scene, looked at the Pandavas and asked, "Which one of you noted down the Sahasranamam that he gave?" In absolute shock, Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula and Sahadeva looked at each other and realized none of them had written it down. In this moment of panic that the entire Sahasranamam had escaped them, they looked to Krishna for a solution, who said, "There is only one being in this entire galaxy who can give you the retention power to repeat the Sahasranamam. He is Shuddha Sphatika Sankasham, Shuddha Vidya Pradayakam, Shuddham Purnam Chidanandam, Sadashivamaham Bhaje." That Sadashiva alone can help you. Pray to him. Sahadeva takes out the Sphatika Mala that he is wearing, does Shivanama Japam with that, and in absolutely no time, he is able to repeat the entire Sahasranamam verbatim as Bhishma just said to him. So, the Vishnu Sahasranamam, as we know it today, not only reaches us because of Shiva, but the most iconic shlokam of this entire Sahasranamam, the essence of the Sahasranamam, as all of you know, is given by Mahadeva to Parvati.
Shri Rama Shri Rama Rama Rameti Shri Rama Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama 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 Tatulyam Ramanama Ramanama Varanane Varanane.
We felt this was a beautiful way to introduce the theme of this evening, Hari-Haram. The Vishnu Sahasranamam we are all familiar with, but who is it reached us because of? Because of Shiva. And when we look at this beautiful bond that exists between these two apparently different schools of thought, of Vaishnavism and Shaivism, over the years differences have grown, different sub-branches within these sects have evolved. But at their core, Hari and Hara are so beautifully connected, and today is an intention or a small homage that we pay to these beautiful intersecting ideas. We are also in times when the differences between the different schools are very, very strong, and even though it's 2023, we still see it manifesting all over the place. One person opens Rameshwaram Cafe and then tomorrow the competitor opens Srirangam Cafe. So the differences between the schools of thought are continuing. But beyond this, we thought, how much of wordplay exists in both these schools that is common? For example, one is the husband of Lakshmi. Lakshmi is called as Ma. So one is Ma Ramana. The other is the husband of Uma. So he's Uma Ramana. One is the father of Kamadeva. Kamadeva's name is Mara. The other is the father of Kumara or Kartikeya. So he's called Kumara. Mara Janaka, Kumara Janaka. One kills Murasura. One kills Tripurasuras. Murahara, Tripurahara. So there are, of course, these are just word plays, but beyond this also, there is some beautiful symbolism that opens itself out. So we thought we would begin with a beautiful shloka called the Hari-Hara Abheda Stuti, written by a phenomenal bhakta who viewed Vishnu and Shiva in the same pristine light. Who this bhakta is and what his very special connection to Narayana and Shiva is, we will explore in just a while. But we present to you two gems from the Hari-Hara Abheda Stuti.
Maramanam Maramanam Umaramanam Maramanam Umaramanam Panadharatalpam Panadharakalpam Maramanam Umaramanam Panadharatalpam Panadharakalpam Muramathanam Puramathanam Muramathanam Puramathanam Vande Banarim Samabanarim Vande Banarim Samabanarim Brahmasutam Mrugatinutam Brahmasutam Mrugatinutam Gajagirivasam Gajendra Charmangam Surasharanam Hari-Sharanam Surasharanam Hari-Sharanam Vande Bhudaram Akhila Bhudaram Vande Bhudaram Akhila Bhudaram Maramanam Umaramanam Maramanam Umaramanam Maramanam Umaramanam Maramanam Umaramanam.
If we were to look, be it stories, be it temples, be it philosophies, Hari and Hara are actually very strongly connected. There are probably a few isolated kshetras where you will see only one. You go to Chidambaram, you think of the Lord as Nataraja, but watching that dance is his most favorite Sakha, Govindaraja. You go to Srirangam, Tiruvannaikaval is right there. And one very beautiful Sthalapuranam says that Shiva is located in Tiruvannaikaval in such a way that he's the first person who sees Vishnu when Ranganatha Swami's doors are opened in the morning. You look at Tiruvarur, where Shiva is present as Tyagaraja Swami. There Vishnu wears a pendant which has a murti of Shiva, Gauri and Skanda on it. So every kshetra, you look at Kanchi. In fact, the shlokam here beautiful said Gajagiri Vasam. Gajagiri is Hastigiri. Hastigiri is the name given to Kanchipuram. It is there that Vishnu resides. It is also there that Shiva resides as Ekambreshwara. So you can look as a host of even temple stories. But we thought, when we are talking about temples, when we are talking about familiar ideas to us, we should look at that one temple which is automatically synonymous for us with Narayana in his absolute pristine glory. This is the temple where the name Govinda resides. Atop the hill of Tirumala, we all see Narayana with the Shankha and the Chakra resplendent. Now historically it's very interesting that prior to establishing this form as Narayana, there is evidence to suggest that the Murti atop the hill of Tirumala was worshipped as Shiva. Many different people talk about this, including the Alvars. And one Pei Alvar says something very beautiful in which he describes the Murti of Venkatachalapati, and that Murti really gives us enough scope to think about, so who is it? Is it Vishnu or is it Shiva? Because over there, Pei Alvar says, Tar Shadayum, meaning the one who has matted hair. Neen Mudiyum, he has at the same time a Kiritam. Matted hair belongs to Shiva, the Kiritam belongs to Vishnu. Vanmadavum Chakkaramum. Vanmadavum is the axe, Parashu as we call it in Sanskritam. Parashudhari is Shiva. Chakkaramum, meaning the Sudarshana Chakram, which belongs to Narayana. Tarshadayum, Neen Mudiyum, Vanmadavum Chakkaramum, Shudaravum, the one who has snakes on his arms. This is a very unique and a peculiar feature of Venkatachalapati. Vishnu is not typically seen having Sarpabharanas here, but Venkatachalapati has them. They are on the Vigraham. They are not just a gold encasing. They are on the Vigraham. Shuraravum Ponnalum Tondrumal, but at the same time, he has a golden waistband. The golden waistband belongs to Narayana. So, in this beautiful verse, Peyalvar brings out how all of these are apparently contrasting forms. But he says, Shurum Tirandarivipaayum Tirumalaimelyandaike Irandurum Ondrai Isainde. I am seeing atop that hill of Tirumala, these two contrasting forms are coming together as one. This is the concept of Shankara Narayana or Hari-Hara. That of course he is Narayana for somebody who looks to him as Narayana. But for somebody who wishes to see him as Shiva, he will gladly give darshanam in that form as well. Annamacharya, who is a devout Sri Vaishnava, said exactly the same thing. He says some people look at you as Vishnu, some Vedantins look at you as Parabrahma, some Kapalikas look at you as Adi Bhairava, some call you as Shiva. But what does it matter? In whichever form they look at you, in that form and in exactly that much amount, you respond to them and you bless them.
కొలుతురు మిము వైష్ణవులో కూరిమితో విష్ణుడని కొలుతురు మిము వైష్ణవులో కూరిమితో విష్ణుడని పలుకుతురు మిము వేదాంతులు పరబ్రహ్మ వనుచు కొలుతురు మిము వైష్ణవులో కూరిమితో విష్ణుడని పలుకుతురు మిము వేదాంతులు పరబ్రహ్మవనుచు తలతురు మిము శైవులు తగిన భక్తులను శివుడనుచు తలతురు మిము శైవులు తగిన భక్తులను శివుడనుచు అలరి పొగటుతురు కాపాలి కులాది భైరవుండనుచు అలరి పొగటుతురు కాపాలి కులాది భైరవుండనుచు ఎంత మాత్రమున ఎవ్వరు తలచిన అంత మాత్రమే నీవు ఎంత మాత్రమున ఎవ్వరు తలచిన అంత మాత్రమే నీవు.
From temples, from Divya Kshetras, we take a dive into the Puranas, where one of the most beautiful and elaborate stories describes the wedding of Shiva and Parvati. But prior to that wedding, the journey of Shiva and Shakti goes through various twists and turns, and we dive straight into that moment when Daksha's yajna is being destroyed because Sati immolated herself in that yajna. Shiva has arrived on the spot, and Shiva is looking now at his wife's body. This is from the perspective of a Leela. The tattva behind this is what we are trying to explore. So in this beautiful moment, Shiva picks up the body of Sati, and Shiva, who was restrained, Shiva, who was controlled, Shiva whose emotions were all within him, now started to explore and started to express themselves. In that moment, when Sati's body, which was his only and his biggest source, his entire source of happiness was that Sati, now with this body in front of him, Shiva picked it up and began to dance. That dance was not an Ananda Tandavam. That dance was untimely. It was an Akala Tandavam. And that dance was not born from joy. It was born from an intent of very, very powerful sadness. That dance shook the cosmos, and the Devatas watched, unable to say anything at all.
जटाटविगलज्जल प्रवाह पावितस्थले गलेवलम्ब्य लम्बिताम्बुजङ्गतुङ्गमालिकां डमड्डमड्डमड्डमन्निनादवड्डमर्वयं चकार चण्डताण्डवं तनोतु न शिव शिवम् धराधरेन्द्रनन्दिनी विलासबन्धुबन्धुर स्फुरद्दिगन्तसन्तति प्रमोदमानमानसे कृपाकटाक्ष धोरणी निरुद दुर्धरापदी क्वचित् दिगम्बरे मनो विनोदमेतुमस्तु शम्भो शम्भो शिव शङ्कर शिव शम्भो शिव शङ्कर 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 शम्भो शिव शङ्कर शम्भो शिव शङ्कर शम्भो शिव शङ्कर शम्भो शिव शङ्कर.
Who would stop him? Who had the courage to face Paramashiva in this moment? All the devatas looked at Narada. Narada brought the only person who is capable of handling a situation like this. The dance was continuing and Vishnumurti arrives. Shiva does not see Vishnu. Vishnu is behind Shiva and Vishnu realizes that the trigger is Sati's body. As long as this body is in front of Shiva, the dance will only intensify. So Vishnu also looks at the Nataraja Swarupam in front of him. Shiva is an extraordinary dancer. So to match Shiva's every beat, Vishnu takes the Sudarshana Chakram and cuts Sati's body piece by piece as it falls onto different parts of the earth. Shiva does not realize that the body is gone because he is lost in his own Tandavam. As the body gets cut piece by piece, Shiva starts to feel that it's become lighter. And when he opens his eyes, Shiva is absolutely shell-shocked because now there is no Sati, there is no body. And in that moment of rage, Shiva pronounces a curse and he says, the only thing that was keeping me going up till this moment was my wife's body. Now somebody had the audacity to separate me from even that. So I curse whoever it is that has done this to me, that they will know the pain of separation from their beloved. All the devatas screamed in horror because the curse had landed on Narayana. But who would tell him that? Narada came and said, Parashiva. Shiva asks him, Narada, who did this? And Narada says, that was Vishnumurti. Shiva was immediately horrified by what he had done because Shiva is the most fond of Vishnu. One of Shiva's names is Vishnu Vallabha, he who is most dear to Vishnu. And he did not realize that he had given a curse that would land on Vishnu himself. It is at this same moment that Vishnu appears in front of him and Shiva asks for Vishnu's forgiveness. And Vishnu says, why are you asking me for my forgiveness? This is actually wonderful because I have to go down to Bhulokam now on a certain avataram. And in that avataram, this curse that you have come will come in very, very handy for me. So I'll keep it in my pocket and I will go. Which avataram is that in which Narayana and Lakshmi get separated? That is Rama avataram. Shiva said, Vishnu, that may be your kindness and your grace that you are saying this, but I am the one who pronounced that curse. So it's not enough for me to leave with that. I make you a promise, Narayana, that if I have caused this separation between both of you in this avataram, in this same avataram, I will come and I will reunite you both. And that is why Shankara descends as Anjaneya Swami to reunite Lakshmi and Narayana. That is the entire Sundarakandam in a few sentences. So this beautiful idea of Hari and Hara eternally moving in accordance to each other and to support each other comes out so beautifully across compositions. But we picked a composition by a composer of this very kshetra of Karnataka. Purandaradasa says so beautifully, he says, you are the Ekadasha Rudras, you are all of the 11 Rudras put together, you are the one who removed Sita's sorrow and Rama's sorrow and brought them both back together. In so many senses, you are the Mukhya Prana, the life force that held this entire epic together. What is said as Ramayana Mahamala Ratnam, Purandaradasa said as Swami Mukhya Pranani.
Ekadashiya Rudra, ni oidyo Ramara Mudra. Ekadashiya Rudra, ni oidyo Ramara Mudra. Sakala Vidya Samudra, Sakala Vidya Samudra, ni haudo Balabhadra. Swami Mukhya Prana, Ninna Marevara Gantalagana. Swami Mukhya Prana, Ninna Marevara Gantalagana. Hididyo Ramana Charana, ಹಿಡಿದ್ಯೋ ರಾಮನ ಚರಣ ನೀ ಹೌದೌದೋ ಜಗತ್ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಮರೆವರ ಗಂಟಲ ಗಾಣ ಹಿಡಿದ್ಯೋ ರಾಮನ ಚರಣ ನೀ ಹೌದೌದೋ ಜಗತ್ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಪ್ರಾಣ.
It is so beautiful to observe that if you look at a kshetra which is predominantly associated with Shankara, which is Kashi Kshetram, in Kashi Kshetram, so many Rama Bhaktas have thrived. And our story leads us to one particular Rama Bhakta who also took it upon himself to write the story of Rama. There is something in that story that no matter how many times it is written, it keeps emerging as a seed in different Bhaktas' hearts. And this particular Bhakta sat down to write the Rama Katha. Even though Valmiki's was already prevalent in Sanskritam, this Bhakta also chose Sanskritam as a medium. He sat on a particular ghat in Kashi Kshetram and began. So he would do his Ramanama Japam in the morning at sunrise, and after his morning ablutions were over, he would then begin to write all the way up till sunset, and then he would go into his Japam, and he was to write it, and his students would also scribe it onto copper plates at those times, in those times. So he noticed that when he finished the Balakanda, he kept it near a murti of Hanuman, asking for Hanuman's blessings one evening when he had completed the Balakanda. The next morning, when he came back to resume and to begin the Ayodhya Kanda, he picked up the copper and realized that there was not a single aksharam from what he has written was visible anymore. All of it had been wiped off. So he didn't know what caused this, and he wondered, was it some sort of black magic? Was there something strange happening? And he decided to restart. So he begins all over again. He begins again, end of Balakanda, same story. And then it strikes him after a few times of the repetition of the same thing that there must be somebody who is coming at night who is doing this. So he decides to keep a vigil at night. And when he does, one particular night he sees, holding Gauri on his left side, Shankara emerges from the Vishwanatha Mandiram, and Shankara is picking up each of the copper templates, each of these small copper plates, and Shankara is wiping off the aksharas of the Ramayana from it. This Bhakta could not control himself anymore. He was so sad. The thrill of seeing Shankara is one thing, but the sadness of seeing that his entire work was just being erased by Shiva. He came and prostrated himself in front of Shiva and he said, Mahadeva, what papam have I done that you're removing my entire work like this? So Shiva says to him so beautifully, he says, in the entire three worlds, the two syllables that I'm most fond of is Rama, Ra and Ma. We spoke about this in detail the last time we were here at BIC. But those syllables have my entire heart. And I'm so happy to see you do the entire Rama Katham. But I want this Katha to go far and wide. I want everybody to be able to sing this. I want them to be able to say it with so much of joy and effortlessness. I want this to come out in Sarala Bhasha. This is already there in Sanskritam. Valmiki has left it. I want you to write this in a language that it will be on everybody's tongues eternally and eternally. The Bhakta took that cue and then rewrote the Ramayanam as the Ramacharitra Manas. By now you all would know that this is none other than Goswami Tulsidas. This episode happened on the Tulsi Ghat that is present till today, where there is a small Hanuman Mandiram. It is in that Mandiram that he placed the first copy of Ramacharitra Manas as well. So if we look at the story of Ramacharitra Manas, that is also inspired by Shiva. Not just that, one of the very first verses of this beautiful Ramacharitra-manas is an ode to Shiva and Shakti, because they were the ones who blessed him, and Tulsidas records that very beautifully. He says, Vande Bhavani Shankarau Shraddha Vishwasa Rupinau. My salutations to Bhavani and Shankara, who are the very embodiments of Shraddha and Vishwasam. Without them, no Siddhas can be seen, no Siddhas grace can be experienced. And he then bows down to Dakshinamurti and then begins the Ramacharitra-manas. So to take Rama's story, Shiva becomes the Guru. And we thought it was fitting to pay a tribute to Goswami Tulsidas, to Kashi Kshetram, and to the flow of the Ramayana that came through him as the Katha, but also through his gems of musical compositions.
Dhumak, 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 ठुमक ठुमक चलत रामचंद्र, ठुमक चलत रामचंद्र, बाजत पैजनिया ठुमक चलत रामचंद्र, बाजत पैजनिया ठुमक चलत रामचंद्र, ठुमक 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 तुमको 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 रघुवर तुमको मेरी लाज, रघुवर तुमको मेरी लाज, सदा सदा मैं सदा सदा मैं सदा सदा मैं सदा सदा मैं शरण तिहारी, सदा सदा मैं शरण तिहारी, तुम ही गरीब निवाज, रघुवर तुमको मेरी लाज, मंगल करनी कलीमल हरनी, तुलसी कथा रघुनाथ की, मंगल करनी कलीमल हरनी, तुलसी कथा रघुनाथ की, गति कुर कविता सरिता की जो, सरिता पावन पात की, मंगल करनी कलीमल हरनी।
If Tulsi, Goswami Tulsidas was inspired by Shiva, somebody else, another bhakta, who had the name of Shiva, also brought out Ramakatha so beautifully through his works and said, this is that one name that is enough to take you away from the fear of birth and death and that entire cycle. This name alone is what you need to drink of, because nothing else is required.
Janana marana bhaya shoka viduram, सकल शास्त्र निगमागम सारम, जनन मरण भय शोक विदूरम, सकल शास्त्र निगमागम सारम, पिबरे रामरसं रसने, पिबरे रामरसं, पिबरे रामरसं, रामरसं 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 राम
There are so many beautiful incidents just connecting Shiva, Rama and Kashi that itself has enough scope for us to explore it for 2 whole hours. And the power of and magnetism of Kashi Kshetram is so much that once we go there, we can't come out so easily. So this next beautiful episode also talks about something very strongly associated with Kashi, which is the phenomenon of dying in Kashi, which is something that one hopes for. There is something very beautiful that one can observe in Kashi. If one leaves one's pranam in Kashi, if you observe the people who die there, on the ghats or anywhere in Kashi, when they are brought, by the time they are brought to be cremated on the banks of Ganga, whichever ghat it may be it Manikarnika or Harishchandra ghat, their ears are always slightly tilted to their left. So then the bodies are never straight. The bodies are always, you can see the right ear a little up. I also hope that next time you go to Kashi, that's not the only thing you're looking out for. But the reason I'm mentioning this particular thing is because in Kashi, the entire idea of dying in Kashi is the idea of moksham. Moksham here in Kashi means that in this kshetram, Parashiva comes and whispers the Taraka mantram into the seeker's ear. Only those who are fortunate will be able to die there. And when they leave their pranam over there, Parameshwara takes their right ear, whispers into their right ear the Taraka mantram. Taraka over here means one that helps them cross over. What that mantram is hardly ever specified, because there are various mantrams. There are various devatas who have Taraka mantras associated with them. But this curiosity as to what mantram does Parashiva whisper into their ear, such that the jiva comes straight out as a glowing beam of light and gets absorbed into Vishwanatha, that is the phenomenon that happens in Kashi. Many people have seen it and recorded it as well. It is also written about in the Kashi Khandam. But the answer, or rather this same question, Parvati poses to Shiva, saying, what is it that you whisper into their ears? Even I want to know. And there Shiva declares in the Padma Puranam, he says, Parvati, I whisper those 2 syllables that free everybody from this eternal cycle of life and death. Tava Rama Nama, I declare that beautiful name into it. In certain combinations, we don't know what that is. That is a tapas that has to be earned for us to experience it. But this is the idea of the beauty of Ramanamam, that it captivates Shiva. If you go to Kashi Kshetram today, in the Vishwanatha Mandiram, there is a certain archana that is done for Vishwanatha with Bilvapatras. Not ordinary Bilvapatras. Bilvapatras are taken, and on them, using Sindhuram, the word Rama is written on all the 3 leaves, and then it is offered to him. These are the Bilvapatras he is most fond of, as opposed to regular Bilvapatras. So the idea of their unity is so strong in Kashi, as I said, that forms an exploration in itself. But we take from that idea and see it reflected in another composer's works. I said that there was one composer who had the name of Shiva and sung Pibbare Ramarasam. That was none other than Sadashiva Brahmendra. There was another composer also who sang so much about Rama, and he himself has Shiva's names. That is none other than Sadguru Tyagaraja Swami. Tyagaraja has so many compositions to Rama on his credit, but in them he disguises and he kind of mixes up so beautifully the essence that Rama is connected to Shiva as well. In one composition he asks so beautifully, he says, who can say that there is this much? Who can quantify how much delight there is in uttering those 2 syllables of Rama, Ra and Ma? Only one person knows, because that one person, what he does is, he takes this ball of sugar, Rama Nama, Kanda Chakra he takes, and he mixes it with the nectarine juice of Swara, Raga and Laya, and after he mixes them, he does Panam of this. Only that Shankara knows that there is this much Saukhyam. That is how much Shiva is fond of Ramanamam. So as an ode to Kashi Kshetram, to Tyagaraja Swami and to Parashiva, we present one of the masterpieces of Sadguru in the Ragam Kapi.
Swara Ragalaya Sudharasamam Swara Ragalaya Sudharasamam Swara Ragalaya Sudharasamam Vararama Nama Mane Kanda Chakera Vararama Nama Mane चकेरा मिश्रमु जेसी मिश्रमु जेसी भुजिया मिश्रमु जेसी भुजिया शंकरुनिकी देलु सुनु त्यागराज विनुत शंकरुनिकी देलु सुनु त्यागराज विनुत इंत सौख्य मणि ने जपजाल ఎంతో ఏమో ఎవరికి తెలుసునో ఇంత సౌఖ్యమని
If his fondness for Rama Avataram is that much, can it be any less for Krishna Avataram? So this beautiful regional tale comes to us where Nanda ke Ananda, there is so much of joy in Nanda's house because a baby boy has been born. Or so they think. The baby boy was born on the other side, but nobody knows that this mischievous boy had arrived miraculously onto the other side. And this news has not just spread now in Gokulam. At this time, all of the gopis and the gopas are in Gokulam. They have not yet moved to Vrindavanam. So the news has also spread to the Akasha Mandalam, to the Gagana Mandalam and other Devalokas. And who else but Narada goes to Kailasa and he sees on the day of, or the day after Janmashtami, that Shiva is in his own dhyanam. So he goes to him and he says, how come you are still here? Do you not know that Vishnu has taken form as the most Adbhuta Balakam, Maharha Vaidurya Kirita Kundala Trisha Parishwatta Sahasra Kuntalam, wearing all these beautiful ornaments. He appeared to Devaki and Vasudeva and blessed them, and then he miraculously transported Vasudeva to the other side, not the other way around. And he got himself exchanged with Yogamaya, and Narada repeats the entire sequence of Krishna's birth. And does Shiva not know? But Shiva said, I was doing dhyanam, but I couldn't go yet. I want to go. So Narada says, you must go and you must see this little boy. And Narada starts to describe this little Muddugare Yashoda, this little boy that is born, that is the pearl of Yashoda's courtyard. And this description is just bringing Shiva so much joy that he decides to go. I think there's a very interesting detail here that I've read 3 different versions of the story, and all the 3 versions emphasize on one particular detail, that Shiva chooses the 12th day of the boy's birth to go and visit him. Now if you count, as per the lunar calendar, Krishna is born on Shravana Bahula Ashtami, that is Janmashtami as we celebrate. If you count 12 days from there, you will get Bhadrapada Shuddha Panchami. Bhadrapada Shuddha Panchami is one day after Vinayak Chaturthi. So very strategically, this father made sure he attended his son's birthday. Illandre Kandita Manenal Bidatte, that oh, Magandu birthday miss Madi Bere Kade Hogta idra neevu. So after he attended his son's birthday, Shiva then arrives in Kashi, in Gokulam. And on the way from Kailasa to Gokulam, Shiva thinks that I cannot go like this. I must go in a more presentable form because I want to see the baby. But as soon as he enters that Kshetram, Gokula Kshetram, Vrindavana Kshetram, these are spaces that don't allow us any pretense. They will make us automatically resort to our natural selves. So Shiva changes his Vesham before he goes there, but the second he sets foot onto Gokulam, he becomes his natural self, because that is Krishna Tattvam, that he will look at us for who we are and love us for all that. There is absolutely no pretense with him. Now he has come, Gangadharam Dashabhujam Sarvabharana Bhushitam Neelagrivam Shashankankam Naga Yajnopavitinam, with Ganga on flowing from his matted locks, with 5 heads, Dashabhujam with 10 hands, Sarvabharana Bhushitam. Some versions also say Sarpabharana Bhushitam, with serpents atop him. Naga Yajnopavitinam, his Yajnopavitam is also Naga. Naga Yajnopavitinam Vyaghra Charmottari Yancha, the one who has a tiger skin as his upper garment. The one who is holding the Trishulam and the Damaru has come like this, and he has landed up at Yashoda's door. Yashoda sees him, and she sees him as a sadhu. So as soon as she sees him approaching, Yashoda goes and brings some grain to give him. So Shiva is expecting that Yashoda will open the door and he will ask his request. But instead, as soon as she opens the door, she is ready to give him bhiksha. Shiva smiles and he says, I have no requirement for this bhiksha. And she says, how come? You're a sadhu, no? He says, yes, but my wife is giving bhiksha to the entire world. Bhikshan dehi cha Parvati, Kashi Puradhishwari. That Kashi Puradhishwari, Annapurneshwari is my Ardhangini. She gives my bhiksha on a daily basis. Here I have not come for bhiksha. So Yashoda says, what have you come for? So he says, I have come to see the little boy. Now in this moment, Krishna is not there. Krishna is inside. Yashoda is looking at him. For us it may be apatalana bhastalanta bhuvana brahmandamavis purat jyotis partikalingam. It is that beam of light which is spreading across the entire 10 directions from patalam till the skies. But for Yashoda, it is a madman. Because this Swarupam is not what a mother will let come near her child. So she says, you cannot see the baby. So Shiva says, I have made a journey from the mountains till here just to see the baby. And she said, absolutely not. You will not see the baby. And the Leela is beautiful because this is where Krishna Tattvam comes out in so many different ways. Here, Krishna allows the mother to win. Because Yashoda says, there is no chance I'm letting him out of my sight. So Shiva makes an even more audacious statement. He says, okay, at some point he's going to grow up, no? I'll sit here for 10 years, then we'll see what you will do. She says, then I'll wait here for 20 years, I'll make another door from the back entrance and he'll leave the house from that. But I'm not going to let him touch you because look at your snakes, you could easily hurt him. So Shiva is dejected. And nobody can win in front of a mother's love because that overpowering affection is what sustains every child's heart, including Krishna's heart. So Krishna for now allows his mother to win. So as we allow Yashoda and Krishna that moment where Yashoda has closed the door in great relief, thinking, my goodness, I managed to get rid of him, not realizing that this is the one that so many yogis are trying to catch in their heart space, she's managed to unwittingly get rid of him. She comes back to Krishna, who is still 12 days old and is sleeping. So let's take a moment to be with this beautiful Krishna who is in Gokula, who is surrounded by cows, who goes on to become the protector of those very cows.
Hey Govind, Hey Gopal, Hey Govind, Hey Gopal, Gopal, Gopal. Hey Govind, Hey Gopal, Hey Govind, Hey Gopal, Hey Govind, Hey Gopal, Hey Govind, राखो शरण अब तो जीवन हारे. हे गोविंद, हे गोपाल, हे गोविंद राखो शरण अब तो जीवन हारे. हे गोविंद, हे गोपाल, हे गोविंद, हे गोपाल, गोपाल.
As Yashoda comes back to the child, she's convinced she has done the best possible thing for her child. She's protected him from some unknown force. For her it is unknown. For most of us he is unknown only. As she comes back to this little boy, he starts wailing. So Yashoda picks him up. Despite this, it doesn't stop. And Krishna's wailing can be heard across the street. It's only growing louder and louder. If there are new parents in the audience, you will relate very much to how suddenly the way children scream, it sounds as if their parents are traumatizing them. And nobody is able to stop this boy. He's being passed across hands, but it doesn't stop. One of the 8 Pradhana Gopikas, whose name is Lalita, Vishakha, these are some of the Pradhana Gopikas who are eternally surrounding Krishna in Vrindavanam, but they're with him from the time he's born. One of them comes to Yashoda and says, he is not hungry, he is not sleepy, this is not about any of his bodily needs. Have you done something that you should not have in the recent past? So she thinks through the day and she says, no. And she says, think carefully. Have you sent somebody away unhappy from the door? Have you sent a Dharmatma away unhappy from the door? Because if you have, that is why this boy is crying. Because if a Dharmatma is sent away unhappily from any door, then the people of that house get affected. So Yashoda immediately tells her that, look, I sent away this sadhu because he insisted on coming inside and holding this boy, and I was very, very scared of him, so I could not do that. So Lalita immediately tells her, that is no way for you to behave. Take the boy and place him into his hands, into that sadhu's hands. I saw the sadhu sitting by the banks of Yamuna. The sadhu is sitting there in contemplation of Balakrishna. So take him and place him there. Yashoda now takes the boy who is still wailing and she places him into Parashiva's lap. This is one of the most beautiful Dhyanamurtis that exists, where Shiva has Krishna on his lap. And as soon as Shiva is holding this beautiful Balakrishna, the tears from Shiva's eyes roll so much that one version says Krishna has a bath in those tears. Those are tears of joy, those Ananda Bashpal of beholding the Lord in that Swarupam, because the Bala Tattvam of Krishna is a Swarupam that is automatically associated. Krishna Avataram is associated with Anandam. The entire idea of Govindam Paramanandam, he is the entire Ananda Swarupa. And as Shiva held him, Shiva was lost, Krishna was lost. But Yashoda, despite all this tattvam, was still looking, and she said, don't bend down too much and hold my boy. I'm worried one scorpion will fall from your head. Solpa nodkondu, samadhana. Shiva could not have his share of Krishna enough. He gave him back very reluctantly to Yashoda. And many, many years later, he does come back to do the Rasa Leela with Krishna. But we spend a few moments with Shiva and Krishna, and imagine what it would have been like for Shiva, or what it is like for Shiva to hold that little boy and to sing for him. So for this, we invite you to sing with us, because Krishna has to be invited here in the heart space, and that's where we can feel Balakrishna's presence. So now we lead you into one of the most beautiful sampradayams that brings out the beauty and the power and the joy of Krishna Namam.
Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murare, Shri Krishna Govinda Hare, He Nath Narayana Vasudeva, Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murare, He Nath Narayana Vasudeva, Mata Pita Krishna Sakha Hamare, Mata Pita Krishna, He Nath Narayana Vasudeva, He Nath, तुमसे है धरती, तुमसे है अंबर, तुमसे है धरती, तुमसे है अग्नि पवन और सातों समंदर, अग्नि पवन, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा, श्री कृष्ण गोविंद गोविन्द हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा हे नाथ श्री कृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे कृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा श्री कृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा.
If Shiva is this fond of Vishnu, this is very much a two-way street, unlike most of Bangalore's roads. So in this beautiful section now, we explore how the relationship between both of them is so strong that even if you look at stories that predominantly deal with Shiva, Vishnu plays such a major role. One such story, the story that we associate with Chidambara Nataraja, the entire story begins with Vishnu being lost in thought. And when Vishnu is lost in Yoga Nidra, he's thinking of someone so deeply that suddenly he becomes, the weight of him becomes too much for Adisesha to bear. After Vishnu comes out of that Yoga Nidra, Adisesha asks him, why were you so heavy today? All these years I have held you, I have never found the weight of you this much. And he says, because I went to Kailasa and there I beheld my Lord Paramashiva with Gauri, and that brought me so much joy. So Chidambaram connected to Vishnu, Kashi Kshetram connected to Vishnu. And here we arrive at one particular kshetram, which we mentioned earlier as Gaja Kshetram, Gajagiri Vasam, the one who is on the mountain of Gajagiri or Hastigiri or Kanchipuram. Once Vishnu is here in many forms as Varadaraja Swami, as Vaikuntha Perumal, as Chaturbhuja Perumal, Ashtabhuja Perumal. But here in this kshetram, Vishnu wanted to establish a linga. So when he's doing his dhyanam, Shiva tells him that you go to one particular place in Kanchi Kshetram and do tapas there. One fine day, you will find that the linga will arrive by itself automatically. So Vishnu is there doing dhyanam. As Vishnu is doing dhyanam, for years Vishnu's dhyanam goes on, and it is not a dhyanam that seeks an end, there is just joy in the process. As Vishnu's dhyanam continues, one bhakta comes along. One bhakta who has contributed so much to Tamil Sahityam that this bhakta sung extensively on Shiva. This is one of the 63 Nayanmars, and this is none other than Tirugnana Sambandar. When Tirugnana Sambandar comes here to this particular place, he does not see that it is Vishnu doing tapas. He sees somebody in tapas, and for him, anybody in tapas reminds him only of Shiva doing tapas. So he starts to sing. And if you look at Jnana Sambandar's works, when he sings of Shiva, he sings with such a joy of abandon that he becomes a part of that vision. It is not that he's closing his eyes and he sees Shiva alone. When he sings about Shiva's Natanam in Chidambaram, he says, Manada, Nulada, Marayada, Tirayada, Maraitanda, Brahmanada. He says, Shiva, Vishnu is dancing, Brahma is dancing, the Vedas are dancing, the axe is dancing, Chandra is dancing, Ganga is dancing, Mangai, Shivakami Ada, Shivakama Sundari is dancing. But along with all of this, Jnana Sambandaroda, Indirar Padinettu Muni, Attabalakanumada, Jnana Sambandar, Indra, and 18 Munis are all dancing. Natya Pingalada, the dancers are dancing. Nandivahanamada, Tandai Puliyudayada, the entire tiger skin of the Lord is dancing. Everything is moving. There is complete Chaitanya when he looks at Shiva. When Jnana Sambandar is singing like this about Shiva, Vishnu, whose tapas is about to conclude, is hearing. When somebody is doing tapas inside and they're able to hear the same things coming from outside, it heightens into a climax. And so much is that climax that Vishnu starts to melt. Vishnu starts to melt from head to toe. And if you look at this beautiful Vigraham, this beautiful lingam, he melts into a lingam today, and that lingam is present in Kanchipuram till date. This is known as Metraleshwar. This Metraleshwar has a unique formation to him. The top part of him is a lingam, the bottom part are the charanas. That is what remained of Vishnu. So it is truly a Hari-Hara Murti. So to pay a homage to this form of Hari-Hara, we present a shlokam that says that those who do not see differences, such as Jnanasambandar, he sung so much of Shiva, but he did not see any difference between Shiva and Vishnu. To those who do not see differences between Vishnu and Shiva, their ayu, their lifespan, and their health, their swastitvam will automatically increase.
Yatha Shivamayo Vishnu Yatha Shivamayo Vishnu Yevam Vishnumayam Shiva Yatha Shivamayo Vishnu Yevam Vishnumayam Shiva Yathantaram Yathantaram na pashyami Tatha me swastirayushi Tatha me swastirayushi Swastirayushi
In this beautiful idea of this dance between Hari and Hara, we began with a shlokam of the Hari-Hara Abheda Stuti that came from a certain bhakta. This bhakta is known as Appai Dikshitar, and Appai Dikshitar spent so much of his sadhana on trying to help people understand what he had realized and experienced for himself, that these are two aspects of reality, of a supreme truth. And we see in the life story of Appai Dikshitar many interesting episodes. One is when he lands or he becomes one of the Asthana Vidwans of a certain king. So this king keeps him very close, and wherever the king travels, he takes Appai Dikshitar with him. Now Appai Dikshitar was also present historically at a time when the divide between Shaivites and Vaishnavites was very strong. So on both sides there was a lot of hatred, there was a lot of bloodshed in the name of protecting their respective faiths, but there was a lot of Devata Dvesha. So Vaishnavites would have Dvesha towards Shiva and the other way around. So Appai Dikshitar's, in many ways, his life's motto also became about reducing those and helping people see beyond. But we see historically how those incidents had their own moments of tension in them. So one particular moment is when Appai Dikshitar, the king, that is Chinnabamaraya, and a certain Vaishnava Acharya who was known as Tatacharya, three of them were traveling somewhere, and en route, so we presume this to be around the Tamil Nadu-Kerala border, they came across a temple of Shasta, of Dharma Shasta. Dharma Shasta is Ayyappa as we know him. Now in this particular temple, there's something very interesting. Unlike Ayyappa, who is typically seated in the Yoga Pattanam, here Ayyappa had his hand on his mouth, much like that. So the king was very perplexed. Now if you look at the mantra shastras to do with Dharma Shasta, there are various forms of Shastas. This is one particular form. But the king was very perplexed, and he said, why is Shasta like this? Why is he in this particular position? So now in this moment, Tatacharya, who was a Shivadveshi, Tatacharya was very strongly opposed to Shiva. So he said, I will answer. Now a little bit of context to this. Ayyappa, as you all know, is the son of Hari-Hara, right? So in this moment, Tatacharya decided to use that, but use it in a very negative context. So he said, I will tell you why Ayyappa's hand is on his mouth. Ayyappa, he comes up with a shloka, Tatacharya. In the interest of time, I'm not repeating the entire shloka. But what Tatacharya says is, Ayyappa is thinking to himself. That's why he's like this. So the king says, what is he thinking? So Tatacharya comes up with a shloka where Ayyappa says, I am thinking to myself that I am the son of Vishnu. So I must be surrounded by Devatas, by Siddhas, by Gandharvas, by Kinnaras. But I am also the son of Shiva. So that is why I am surrounded by all these Bhutas, Pretas, Ganas. Now, this is the shlokam that he leaves. So, we will also think about what does the shlokam possibly mean? What was Tatacharya trying? Tatacharya was definitely trying to communicate something negative. But for us, the arrival of Ayyappa symbolizes a certain joy because he is the union of Hari-Hara. So we will spend some minutes at the son of Hari-Haratmajam, the one who is Hari-Haratmajam.
हरिवरासनं विश्वमोहनं हरिदधीश्वरम् आराध्यपादुकं हरिविमर्दनं नित्यनर्तनं हरिहरात्मजं देवमाश्रये शरणमय्यप्पा स्वामी शरणमय्यप्पा शरणमय्यप्पा स्वामी शरणमय्यप्पा शरणमय्यप्पा स्वामी शरणमय्यप्पा शरणमय्यप्पा स्वामी शरणमय्यप्पा.
Appai Dikshitar recognized the hidden toxicity in Tatacharya's verse. So he responds saying, I will also propose what Ayyappa might be thinking. Ayyappa has Shiva as his father. So he thinks, if Shiva is my father, all of Shiva's wives are my mother. Now Shiva's wife is also Mohini in this Swarupam. So if Mohini, who is Vishnu, is also my mother, then Ayyappa is thinking, then what should I call Lakshmi? To that form, to that Swarupam of Ayyappa who is thinking, who is Lakshmi in relationship to him? Because now he has two mothers. To that form of Ayyappa, I bow down. That is what Appai Dikshitar came up with as a response to Tatacharya's cynical remark, and to that Ayyappa we bow down, who is truly Hari-Haratmajam.
श्रुतजनप्रियं चिन्तितप्रदं श्रुतिविभूषणं साधुजीवनं श्रुतिमनोहरं गीतलालसं हरिहरात्मजं देवमाश्रये शरणमय्यप्पा स्वामी शरणमय्यप्पा शरणमय्यप्पा स्वामी शरणमय्यप्पा शरणमय्यप्पा स्वामी शरणमय्यप्पा शरणमय्यप्पा स्वामी शरणमय्यप्पा स्वामी शरणमय्यप्पा स्वामी शरणमय्यप्पा स्वामी शरणमय्यप्पा.
We thought we would present to you this aspect of Ayyappa because the formation of Ayyappa as Shiva and Mohini Sutta is very well known to most of us, and there are also compositions extolling them. But I think this particular Hari-Haratmajam Devamashraya, in this immortal tune, I think the tune is composed by Sri Yesudas, if I'm not wrong. It has a certain power and a certain grace in it that felt fitting for this occasion. But this idea of Shiva and Vishnu, you will see it across texts, you will see it across places, you will see it across stories. And I think one of the most beautiful storytellers out there is Adi Shankaracharya, because he takes complex, long incidents and just puts them so effortlessly into single words that one often reads them not even realizing how potent these words are. In the Shivananda Lahari, which is his masterpiece of 100 verses on Paramashiva describing the glory of Shiva, there he says, Banatvam Vrishabhatvam Ardhavapusha. He starts it off saying he became your Banam, he became your arrow. That is referring to Tripurasura Samharam. When Shiva kills the 3 cities of Tripurasuras, at that time the arrow for him is Vishnu. Vishnu is the direction that burns down all of the 3 cities together. Banatvam Vrishabhatvam. On another occasion, Vishnu becomes the bull for Shiva that Shiva walks on. This is another story, a longer one. Banatvam Vrishabhatvam Ardhavapusha Bharya Tvamaryapate. O Aryapate, meaning O husband of Durga, all of this he did for you. On another account, he says, Ghonitvam, he became a boar. When did Vishnu become a boar? When Shiva appeared as a pillar of light and Vishnu becomes a boar to go and find the base of it, Brahma becomes a swan to go and find the top of this. So he says on another account, he became Ghonitvam. On another account, he became your friend, your female friend, Sakhita. When did he become a Sakhi to Shiva. I mentioned briefly about the story of Chidambaram when Vishnu was in Yoga Nidra and he got transported to Kailasa. In that state of Yoga Nidra, when he went to Kailasa, Shiva says, I am about to go to Darukavanam. I am going there to test the Munis and their penance. Will you come with me, Vishnu? And Vishnu is about to come and Shiva says, not in this Swarupam. Become your feminine self, become Mohini and then come with me. So he says, then you came as Mohini, as his Sakhi. Gonitvam Sakhita. And on another account, eternally in Chidambaram, you are the one who is playing the Mridangam, or rather Vishnu is the one who is playing the Mridangam for Shiva. So he says, Gonitvam Sakhita, Mridanga Sahita, Mridanga Vahata, Chetyadi Rupam Dadhau. Look at all these things that he has done. We all know the very famous incident associated with Narayana and Shiva, that Vishnu is offering 1008 lotuses to Shiva and he only finds 1007. And at that point he wonders to himself, everybody calls me Kamalanayana, so let me take out my eye, let me pluck out my eye and offer this as the final lotus. Then Shiva appears to him, and this account says that the Sudarshana Chakra was given to Vishnu on this account when this particular incident happened. So he said, Twatpade nayanarpanam chadadr kritavan, Twatdeha bhago harihi. He became a part of you. Twatdeha bhago harihi. And that Harihi that you see, Tvat Deha Bhago Harihi, is exactly the Murti of Hari-Hara that you see in front of you. This is sculpted by the very, very talented Sri Yatin Nagesh. I know he's here somewhere, I cannot see, but you will see Vishnu and Shiva coming together so beautifully and so congruously that it is actually quite a structural and quite a form-wise challenge to bring this, because those of you familiar with sculpture will know that different devatas have different proportions associated with them. Ganapati is considered to be Panchatala. He follows a measurement system of 5. His body follows a measurement system of 5. Vishnu follows 9. Shiva follows 8 and certain things like that. But despite that, to bring together two seemingly different forms and put them out as Hari-Hara, Shankara Narayana, call him by whatever name you wish to, that is what Adi Shankaracharya also intended. Tvat Deha Bhago Harihi, Pujyat Pujatarassa Eva Hinachet, Kova Tadanyodhikaha. Who is that Vishnu except for you, O Shiva? So in a verse dedicated to Shiva, he puts it and he brings in Vishnu, weaves in Vishnu so very beautifully. So taking in all these accounts, we also looked at composers. Composers who sung about Shiva also sung about Vishnu. Sometimes composers used very similar words. One is fond of Vedanadam. One moves like an elephant. What is common between these two? We'll let you figure out as you hear the next bit.
Samagana lolane, Samagana lolane, Sadashiva Shankarane, Daya Karane, Jaya 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 Samagana lolane, Samagana lolane, Samajavaragamana, Sadhurit Samajavaragamana, Sadhurit Sarasabjapala Kailatita Vikhyata Samajavaragamana, Sadhurit Sarasabjapala Kailatita Vikhyata Samajavaragamana, Sadhurit Sarasabjapala Kailatita Vikhyata Samajavaragamana, Sagamadani Samajavaragamana. Sanida Maga Samagana lolane, మగ సని సగ ని గ సద మద ని సా మ జ వర స సని ద ని సగ మగ సని సగ ని గ స సని ద మగ సా మ గ న మమ గ ద ద మ ని ని ద స స ని గ గ స మ గ స ని ద గ మ ద ని సా మ జ స గ మ గ స ని స మ గ గ స ని స గ ని స ద ని మ ద ని స ని ద మ గ స మ గ న స గ ద గ మ మ మ ద ద ద ని 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 స స స గ మ ద ని సా మ జ వ స ని 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 ద ద ద మ మ మ గ గ గ స స ని ద మ గ స మ గ న ని ని స స ని ని స గ గ స ని స గ గ స ని స గ మ గ స ని స గ స గ ని స ని గ స ద ద ద ని స గ గ గ మ గ స ద ద ని స గ మ గ గ మ గ గ మ గ గ స స ని ద ని స మ గ స ని స గ స గ ని స ని స ని స మ గ గ స స ని ని ద ద మ గ మ ద ని స స స ని గ స స ని ద మ గ స గ మ ద ని స సని సని ని స సని ని స గ గ సని స గ మ గ గ సని స మ గ సని స గ స గ ని స ని స ద ని స ని ద మ ద ని స ని ద మ గ స స స ని ని స ని ని స ద ద ని ద ద ని మ మ ద మ మ ద గ మ ద ని స స గ మ గ స ని స గ ని స ని ద మ ద గ మ ద మ గ స గ స ని ద మ గ స మ గ గ స స ని ని ద గ స స ని ని ద ద మ స ని ని ద ద మ మ గ స గ మ ద ని స స గ మ మ గ స ని ని స గ గ స ని ద ద ని స స ని ద స ని ద మ గ స ని ని స ని స ని ద మ గ మ ద ని స ద ని ద ద ని ద మ గ స ని ద మ గ స స ని మ గ స ని ద ని గ స స స ని ని ద ద మ మ స ని ద మ గ స ని ని స ని ని స మ గ స ని గ స ద ద ని స మ ద ని స మ ద ని ని స మ గ స ని గ స ని స ద ని స ని స ద ని గ మ గ స ని స ని ని స ని ని స ని ని స ద ద ని మ మ ద గ గ మ స గ గ మ మ ద ద ని ని స స గ ని స ద ని గ మ ద ని స స స ని 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 స గ గ స ని స గ మ గ గ స ని స గ స గ ని స ని గ స ద ద ద ని స గ గ గ మ గ స ద ద ని స గ మ మ మ గ స ని స మ గ స ని స గ మ గ గ మ గ గ మ గ స ని ని స గ మ గ గ స ని స గ స ని ద ని స ని ద మ ద ని ద మ గ మ గ గ ద మ మ ని ద ద స ని గ స ని ద మ ద ని స మ గ స ని స గ స ని ద ని స ని ద మ ద మ గ స ని ద ని స గ స ని ద మ ద ని స ని ద మ గ స గ మ ద మ మ గ మ ద ని ద ద మ ద ని స ని ని స గ మ ద మ గ ద మ మ గ మ ద mama da da ma da ni sa ga ma ga sa ni sa 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 ga sa ni da ni ni sa ni da ma da 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 ma ga sa ni da ni ni sa 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 ga sa ni da ma da 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 ni sa ga ma da ni sa ma jabara gamana sa ma ga na lolane sada shiva shankarane दया करने जय साम गान लोलने
One is extolled through Samaganam. One as the gait of an elephant. Sama refers to the Vedam, Samaja refers to an elephant. And we thought through this beautiful wordplay, there are several compositions that also bring out different aspects of Shiva and Vishnu being identical, but we felt this, in some senses, kind of summed up what we were trying to go closer to. We mentioned a small incident from Shiva Kalyanam earlier this evening, and it would not be right to conclude with that because Shiva Kalyanam is a very joyous occasion, and we took a moment that was more intense. So we move from there, we fast forward from there much later when Parvati's tapas has been completed and Shiva and her wedding has been fixed. And in that moment, in this particular story, in this version, what we see is that at the time of the wedding, after the groom's party has arrived, there is a certain Krantacharam. In the wedding, there are different kinds of acharas, different kind of procedures that are followed. There is Kalacharam, things that are done as per time. There is Krantacharam, that things that are followed in different prantas and different spaces. So that's, you will see that wedding rituals differ state from state. Sometimes within states also there is a difference every 20 kilometers or so. So similarly, in Aushadhi Prastham, which is the capital city of Himavan, Parvati's father, the mountain king, over there the Prantacharam dictates that after the the groom's party arrives at the wedding venue, which is to be held in the bride's house, they must come and they must give jewels for the bride. The bride is to wear these jewels at the time that she comes out and makes her appearance in the wedding. Now, Shiva and the entire Varagamanam has happened. And after this, Parvati is getting ready inside. She has not yet seen Shiva. They're all waiting for this moment, and all her friends are busy around her wondering, Shiva has to send some jewels, but what will he send? Maximum, if anything, one box full of snakes will come from there. What jewelry he has? Parvati listens to these jibes, because Shiva and Parvati Kalyanam is filled with moments when different people do not understand Shiva Tattvam. And now it hurts Parvati again that her friends have also reduced him to a mere wandering ascetic who looks as if he does not know what he's doing. And as she bites her lips, she thinks to herself, Swami, show them that Aradhana, worshipping of you, is the greatest richness in itself. And as she thinks that, Parvati closes her eyes and doesn't say a thing. But all her friends suddenly hear something. They hear the sound of two distinct anklets approaching. Those same anklets, worn by the goddess, whose very name and whose very form dispels poverty across the three worlds. That goddess whose glance is sought after by every living being. That goddess who is radiant with two lotuses and the Varabhaya Hastam. That daughter of the Milky Ocean arrives and opens Parvati's bridal chamber with a tray full of jewels. Mahalakshmi is standing there and all of them are stunned, wondering how is she here? And Mahalakshmi looks at them, and before they can even ask, she answers, how could I not be here? My husband is the one who held his hand and brought him to the wedding mandapam, to the Kalyana mandapam. So therefore I am now from the groom's side. And Mahalakshmi gives Parvati all of the ornaments with which she truly arrives. Gauri comes for her own Kalyanam. So celebrating that moment of Shiva Kalyanam, in which Lakshmi plays such a predominant role, Vishnu Patni Lakshmi, who enables Shiva Kalyanam to go on without any hindrances.
ಹೆಜ್ಜೆಯ ಮೇಲೊಂದು ಹೆಜ್ಜೆಯ ನಿಕ್ಕುತ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆಯ ಮೇಲೊಂದು ಹೆಜ್ಜೆಯ ನಿಕ್ಕುತ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆಯ ಮೇಲೊಂದು ಹೆಜ್ಜೆಯ ನಿಕ್ಕುತ ಗೆಜ್ಜೆ ಕಾಲ್ಗಳ ಧ್ವನಿಯ ತೋರುತ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆಯ ಮೇಲೊಂದು ಹೆಜ್ಜೆಯ ನಿಕ್ಕುತ ಗೆಜ್ಜೆ ಕಾಲ್ಗಳ ತೋರುತ ಸಜ್ಜನ ಸಾಧು ಪೂಜೆಯ ವೇಳೆಗೆ ಸಜ್ಜನ ಸಾಧು ಪೂಜೆಯ ವೇಳೆಗೆ ಮಜ್ಜಿಗೆಯೊಳಗಿನ ಬೆಣ್ಣೆಯಂತೆ ಸಜ್ಜನ ಸಾಧು ಪೂಜೆಯ ವೇಳೆಗೆ ಮಜ್ಜಿಗೆಯೊಳಗಿನ ಬೆಣ್ಣೆಯಂತೆ ಭಾಗ್ಯದ ಲಕ್ಷ್ಮೀ ಬಾರಮ್ಮ ಭಾಗ್ಯದ ಲಕ್ಷ್ಮೀ ಬಾರಮ್ಮ ನಮ್ಮಮ್ಮನೇ ಸೌಭಾಗ್ಯದ ಲಕ್ಷ್ಮೀ ಬಾರಮ್ಮ ನಮ್ಮಮ್ಮನೇ ಸೌಭಾಗ್ಯದ ಲಕ್ಷ್ಮೀ ಬಾರಮ್ಮ ನಮ್ಮಮ್ಮನೇ ಸೌಭಾಗ್ಯದ ಲಕ್ಷ್ಮೀ ಬಾರಮ್ಮ ಆ
This composition is fitting on so many accounts. We are also just at the Sandhya Kalam before Shravana Masam begins. So on that account, the month that celebrates Lakshmi in all her glory. But behind this is hidden a beautiful tattvam. Why is it that Ishvara, that Lakshmi comes on behalf of Ishvara? As a story, she is Vishnu Patni, so she comes here. The idea here is that Aishwaryasya Bhavam Ishvaraha, the one who possesses all riches, is Ishvara. And that is the name that we ascribe to Shiva. That is why if you see various texts, various stotras, we gave you a snippet from the Shiva Tandava Stotram. The Phalashruti of the Shiva Tandava Stotram says, Puja Vasana Samaye Dashavaktra Geetam Yashambhu Pujana Patam Patati Pradoshe Tasya Sthiram Ratha Gajendra Turanga Yuktam Lakshmim Sadaiva Sumukhim Pradadati Shambho. Those who read this Shiva Tandava Stotram at the time of Pradosham, in their house, with chariots, with elephants and with horses, Ratha Gaja Turendra Yuktam, Lakshmim Sadaiva Sumukhim. Lakshmi always looks upon that house with joy. So the idea is that Ishvara Aradhana He may look like he has nothing, but everything is hidden within him. He has no need for anything. That is one beautiful idea that comes out through this, and that is why we wanted to bring that out over here. But also going beyond this into slowly kind of taking our experience of Hari-Hara to say, why has there been so much of emphasis on uniting Hari and Hara? They have historically developed in different regions, across different time periods, through different languages. Why is the connect so important? Why is it important to say that, oh yes, Vishnu is very fond of Shiva and Shiva is very fond of Rama and Krishna? What is the idea that connects them? To understand that idea, we just take two words, Vishnu and Shiva. We associate these words with forms. But to transcend that form and to understand a little better, Vishwam Vishnuhu. Vishnu means that which is ever expanding, which is this universe. Vishnu for us now means Shankha Chakra Gada Padmadhari, yes, but it also means that which is ever expanding, which is the nature of the universe. The idea of saying Shivaya Vishnu Rupaya, the idea is we only see the universe. We only see the creation around us. We don't see the creator. But what is the source of this creation? What is the source of this Vishnu, of this Vishwam? The source is that Turiya Bhumi, the fourth state that is beyond access. That Turiya Bhumi is called as Shiva. So identifying that this Vishwam, this Vishnu, is no different from that fourth plane of existence. The source, or rather the creation, is not separate from the creator. That is what is meant by the word Shivaya Vishnu Rupaya Shiva Rupaya Vishnave. See the creation and recognize the creator in it. See the creator and see the creation with him. That is the idea of Hari-Hara Tattvam in terms of pure philosophy. But that philosophy is challenging because we always see in this world's dvanda, we always see dualities. One side of Hari is the one that is resplendent in silks. The other side is wearing animal hide. One side is completely bedecked with gold. The other side is wearing serpents. These dualities always exist. And paying homage to these dualities and going beyond these dualities is what we hope to do through our almost final bit segment of this evening.
पीताम्बरधरं चर्माम्बरधरं चित्रकुण्डलधरं पीताम्बरधरं चर्माम्बरधरं चित्रकुण्डलधरं भस्मभूषणं गन्धभूषणं परमतत्त्वं प्रभुं भस्मभूषणं गन्धभूषणं परमतत्त्वं प्रभुं गौरीसोदरं वाणिसोदरं सर्वलोकप्रभुं स्वप्रकाशधर वन्दे हरिहरं गौरीसोदरं वाणिसोदरं सर्वलोकप्रभुं गरुडनन्दिनुत स्वप्रकाशधर वन्दे हरिहरम् पीताम्बरधरं चर्माम्बरधरं चित्रकुण्डलधरं भस्मभूषणं गन्धभूषणं परमतत्त्वं प्रभुं पीताम्बरधरं चर्माम्बरधरं चित्रकुण्डलधरं भस्मभूषणं गन्धभूषणं परमतत्त्वं प्रभुं गौरीसोदरं वाणिसोदरं सर्वलोकप्रभुं गरुडनन्दिनुत स्वप्रकाशधर वन्दे हरिहरं गौरीसोदरं वाणिसोदरं सर्वलोकप्रभुं गरुडनन्दिनुत स्वप्रकाशधर वन्दे हरिहरं पीताम्बरधरं चर्माम्बरधरं चित्रकुण्डलधरं भस्मभूषणं गन्धभूषणं परमतत्त्वं प्रभुं गौरीसोदरं वाणिसोदरं सर्वलोकप्रभुं गरुडनन्दिनुत स्वप्रकाशधर वन्दे हरिहरं वन्दे हरिहर वन्दे हरिहर वन्दे हरिहरं वन्दे हरिहर वन्दे हरिहर वन्दे हरि Hari-Har Vande Hari-Har Vande Hari-Haram Vande 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 Hari-Haram Vande Hari-Haram. ऋतगुं सत्यं परं ब्रह्म पुरुषं कृष्णपिङ्गलम् ऊर्ध्वरेतं विरूपाक्षं विश्वरूपाय वै नमो नमः शिवाय विष्णुरूपाय शिवरूपाय विष्णवे शिवश्च हृदयं विष्णुः विष्णुश्च हृदयं शिवः विष्णुश्च हृदयं शिवः विष्णुश्च हृदयं शिवः.
From the bottom of our hearts, we're so overwhelmed by the love, by the response this evening. There are a few things that match up to this feeling of speaking to so many pairs of eyes, to performing. I can hardly call it performing. It was a deeply moving experience for all of us, and we'd just like to extend our thanks to the hands that made this possible, to MadRasana for trusting us with this idea, to Mahesh uncle, Aruna auntie.
I would like to add one thing. The last piece that we presented, the Pitambaradharam piece, that was beautifully penned by our very dearest Vinay Varanasi. So a big round of applause.
It will only be half fair if I accept that applause, because the tune of that, the very catchy tune of that, is Rahul's. So I'm going to wait for that to become a video soon. That's going to come out soon. To BIC for this space that feels like home, and just to all of you for showing up, for making this such a wonderful evening, to the team that made the audio, video possible, to all the helping hands, visible and invisible. We're deeply, deeply indebted. When we suggested this idea of Hari-Haram to Mahesh uncle, I wondered after some time, did I bite off more than I can chew? But in the hands of such talented artists, Shri Rahul Vellal, Shri Janardhan, Srinath, and Shri Adamya, Ramanand, I think every feat finds its final fruit. It has been an absolute honor to work with artists like this, and this is going to be an evening that is going to be memorable for a very, very long time. So thank you.